ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। Hari Om, salutations to all. So Kathopanishad, we were seeing that the waker, dreamer, deep sleeper are all actually the appearance of one pure consciousness. So then the objection was raised that if consciousness is one, then in all beings, if consciousness is one, then if one person realizes, then everybody else should realize. So the examples given were in mantra number 9 and 10 of the fire and air. That fire is one, but it can take up many forms. Agnir yathaiko bhuvanam pravishto rupam rupam pratirupo babhuva. Ekas tatha sarvabhutantaratma rupam rupam pratirupo bahishcha. So there is one supreme consciousness which is transcending all the forms, and it is also the one consciousness which is immanent in all the forms. Just like the fire can be there in the wood, in an iron ball, in different ways the fire will have expression. That depends on the equipment. Fire is the same. In the same way, one person realizing the truth doesn't mean everybody will realize. It is like saying one bulb fusing, every bulb will fuse. That is not necessary. So these two, say similar example was given with the Vayu also, with the air. So these two examples made it clear that Atma can be one in all the beings, but the subtle bodies can be different and the states of subtle bodies will be different in each jiva. And through this also the transcendental nature of the Atma and the immanent nature of the Atma also was brought out. Then it was said, if Atma is one in all, then the dukkha of all the beings must be experienced by the Atma. So the mantra 11 said no, it is not experienced by the Atma, because Atma is the transcendental nature and Atma is the substratum. So substratum or the illuminer will never be affected by the superimposed or what is illumined. So we were on mantra 11. We did a part of that commentary. So today we will continue that mantra. Suryo yatha sarva lokasya chakshuhu nalipyate chakshushairbahya doshaihi ekas tatha sarva bhutantaratma nalipyate loka dukkhena bahyaha. So Suryo yatha sarva lokasya chakshu, just as the sun is the illuminer of the whole world, na lipyate, that sun never gets affected by whatever it illumines. So Atma is the illuminer of the functions of the BMI. Atma is not affected by them. Just like the sun, it may illumine Ganges water, or it may illumine the gutter water, but the sun is not affected by any of them because it is just illumining. Like the screen will not be affected by whatever is happening in the movie. So it was said in that same way, samsarga dosha and adhyatmika dosha, that both will not be there. So we have seen that part of the commentary. The second paragraph is what we have to see. In that we have done one line. Loko hi avidyaya swatmani adhyastaya kama karma udbhavam dukkham anubhavati. That people experience sorrow because of avidya. And because of that ignorance, one feels that I am a limited entity. And then the desire, thoughts, actions, all that start. And the result of that is dukkha. Meaning any karma phala, dukkha, sukha, dukkha, all of them. Because they superimpose the sense of doership on the Atma. So the Atma is different, like the role is different, the actor is different. Now if the actor and the role are confused and mixed up, and one doesn't know who is the actor and one thinks that the person is this role only. So the same thing has happened. So natu sa paramarthatah swatmani. From the absolute standpoint, there is no sorrow at all. So avidya we have to see from three standpoints. From the absolute standpoint, there is no avidya. Like from the standpoint of the sun, there is no darkness. From its own standpoint, avidya is inexplicable. Because we can explain avidya only from the standpoint of the self or the world. So we can say avidya is the cause of the world. So from world standpoint, avidya is the cause. From the individual BMI standpoint, avidya is the cause. And that same avidya in its totality is called Maya. So from the world standpoint, Maya is the cause. From individual standpoint, avidya is the cause. So from that standpoint, avidya is cause, the root cause. From absolute standpoint, avidya doesn't exist. So we can explain avidya only from these two. From its own standpoint, if we have to explain, we can't explain. It is inexplicable. And so here he says, Natu sa paramarthata swatmani. An example given are Yatha Rajju Shuktika. Yatha Rajju Shuktikosha Ragaganeshu Sarpa Rajatodakam Malani Na Rajvadinam Swato Dosha Rupani Santi. So three examples given here is that snake and the rope. So rope is seen as the snake, that shell is seen as silver, and water and its dirt. Sarpa Rajata Udakamalani. So the water and the dirt. So the dirt does not belong to the water. In these three, Na Rajvadinam Swato Dosha Rupani Santi. These are not inherent in the rope. The snake is not inherent in the rope. The silver is not inherent in the shell. The impurity is not inherent in the water. They are not its nature. Same way, Atma is free. It is not bound by any limitations, but we are superimposing some limitations. Samsargini Viparita Buddhya, Viparita Buddhi Adhyasa Nimittat Dosha Bit Vibhavyante. Just because of their contact, one feels that they are one. But it is not like that. nahi, sorry, na tad doshaihi tesham lepaha. Though they come in contact, those people who can't see it clearly, they think it is inherent in them. The dosha is inherent in them. So the snake is inherent in the rope. So one who is not able to see clearly, that person superimposes and thinks that the rope only is the snake. But he says no, that tad doshaihi, na tad doshaihi tesham lepaha. Even if it is superimposed, the substratum is not affected by it. The snake will never poison the rope. Viparita buddhi adhyasa bahyahite. Because the substratum is always outside, see this adhyasa buddhi. So now we have to understand this a little deeper here. In the example of the rope and the snake, the person who is standing is outside the rope. So the person is seeing the rope as a snake, being a third party. That's what this context is. Samsargini viparita buddhya adhyasa nimitta dosha vad vibhavyante na tad doshai tesham lepaha viparita buddhi adhyasa bahyahite. Adhyasa bahyahite, viparita buddhi. So the one who is projecting that, who is seeing the snake in place of the rope, that person is outside the rope. That's the limitation of that example. So whatever is happening to the rope, in the sense that when the person is seeing the rope as the snake, the person is not affected by what is happening there. Until that person feels it is a snake which has bit me, then that's a different matter. But the substratum and this person are completely different. That's the limitation of the example. But in our case, what has happened? In our case, we are the substratum and we are misunderstanding ourselves. So that's the difference in the example. The rope is not misunderstanding itself as the snake. Somebody standing outside is seeing the rope as the snake. But in our case, I am misunderstanding my true self to be a limited entity, and all this, avidya, kama, karma, all that dukkha happens. So I get affected. I feel as though I am affected. Though the fact is that it is a superimposition, so Atma is never affected at all. But I still feel I am affected because I don't know the real I. So in this case, the superimposition as though is affecting the superimposed. So that's the difference in these two in these two aspects. The rope and snake analogy has that limitation where the rope is not misunderstanding itself to be the snake. There's a person outside. Here I am misunderstanding myself to be this limited entity, so I am suffering. Hence he says, Tatha Atmani Sarvo Lokaha Kriya Karaka Falatmakam Vijnanam Sarpadisthaniyam Viparitam Adhyasya Tannimittam Janma Marana Adi Dukkham Anubhavati. So this is what one experiences. In this world, what have we superimposed on the Atma? Kriya Karaka Falatmakam Vijnanam. I have superimposed these three things. Kriya, action. Karaka is the doer. And Phala is the result. So the doership, the action, and the result. That I am the Karta, I am the Bhokta, and I am doing this karma. This one has superimposed. Sarpadisthaniyam Viparitam Adhyasya. Contrary to the example of the rope and the snake. In rope and snake, the rope is not thinking itself as snake. Here I am thinking I am the Karta, I am the Bhokta. That Atma which is Akarta, Abhokta, beyond all action, that Atma is now thought of as a limited entity. So now what is the result of that? What is the impact of this wrong notion? Tan nimittam janma marana adi dukkam anubhavati. Now because of this, one is going through cycle of birth and death and sorrows. Natu atma sarva lokatmapi san viparita adhyasa aropita nimittena lipyate loka dukkhena. But Atma is never affected, though it is the self of all the beings. The dukkha of all the beings never affects the Atma. Why? Bahyaha. Rajju adivad eva viparita buddhi adhyasa bahyo hi sa iti. Because it is completely different from what is superimposed on it. Bahya does not mean here external, here Bahya means separate. Meaning the superimposition and the substratum are separate. No matter what all is superimposed on the substratum, the superimposed will never be able to affect the substratum. Because there is what Gurudev used to call it relationless relationship. There is no relation in reality, but still there is a relationship. There is no relationship in what sense? The substratum alone is actually there. There is nothing else. The rope alone is there. But ignorance is making one see that rope as the snake. So there, as though there is a relationship between the rope and the snake, and the relationship is superimposed and the substratum relationship. See, in superimposed and substratum relationship, there is no chance of the superimposition affecting the substratum. In a cause and effect relationship, the cause modifies to become the effect. So there is a change happening in the cause. But in the superimposed and substratum relationship, the cause doesn't modify. What we have seen earlier, the rope is not modifying to become the snake. The rope is not producing the snake. The rope is not evolving to become the snake. Then what is happening? The rope is only appearing as the snake. So the appearance will never affect the substratum. And that's why the dukkha of all the beings, how many ever beings it may be, countless number of jivas are there. The dukkha of all the jivas put together will not even touch the Atma. Why? Because the relationship is of the superimposed and the substratum. That superimposed is only an appearance of the substratum, but it is not a production, modification, or evolution of it. So it will never be affected. The snake will never poison the rope. Same way, the Atma will never be affected. What is the practical implication of this? That I think of myself as a karta, bhokta, samsari, jiva, and now I want sukha in my life, I want dukkha nivritti. But the fact is, my nature is Ananda Swarup Atma even right now. Suppose there is so much of fear, panic, everything going around right now. That is because I identify with the body, mind, intellect. Even at this moment, as Atma, it is unaffected. While the movie is going on also, there may be a terrific violent scene, huge battle may be there, but the screen is white only. There is nothing which has happened to the screen. In us, there is that presence, that Atma, and that Atma is pervading everywhere. There is one supreme truth which remains completely unaffected, no matter what happens. So not only in times of crisis, but even at good times. See, this will apply, we will be able to apply this very well if we are consistent. In the good times also, if we say that in I am that pure Atma which is not affected by any karma phala, good or bad. How does it matter? Why? Because I am not the karta, I am not the bhokta. Then how karma phala will affect me? Like the actor knows now very clearly that no matter what is the role he may be playing, he may play the role of a beggar, he may play the role of a villain, or she may play the role of a heroine or a villain or a vamp, whatever it is. But nothing happens. He knows that is all unreal. In real life, something else only it is. That person is. Same way, our true self is Satchit Anand. This is the role I am playing. This is nothing to do with me actually speaking. It's just a role. So if I apply this, then equanimity will come. Naturally, it will come at good times as well as at difficult times. Now somebody says, but what is wrong if I feel good in the good times? What is wrong if I feel sad in the bad times? That's the problem there. The question has a problem there. At a simpler level, we say, yes, don't be affected by good and bad. Don't be overwhelmed by good and bad. See how quickly you can come back to balance. That is at a simpler level one can explain. But if we come to the depth of Vedanta, we say that who is that I? Are you that I? The question is that. Are you that I, which is small I, which goes through up and down and which needs to come back to balance fast? Or are you the illuminer of that small I? As illuminer of the small I have nothing to do with what is happening in the BMI or in the world. No, but that is very difficult to apply. That's why Vedanta requires Vivek, Vairagya, Shakta, Sampatti, Mumukshutvam. If I want to realize the absolute truth, I have to wake up to that state. I can't say, no, I love to be the dream character. Then be the dream character. Upanishad is meant for that person who wants to wake up. He says, enough I've seen in this world now. There's nothing out here. It is all temporary, and I want to know what is the root cause of all this. And when we start inquiring into the root cause, we find out that, Arey, my nature to is Sachidanand. Then why am I thinking all this? So that person who has enough Vivek Vairagya will say that I am the pure consciousness no matter what. Those are the heights of Vedanta. One can prepare oneself step by step for it, there is no doubt. But this is what it means, that there is an unaffected presence in my life. I am that presence. Forgetting that, now small things can affect me. Somebody smiled at me. Now I start doubting, why is that person smiling? Somebody doesn't smile, again I doubt. Somebody told me something, I feel hurt. Or who is that I? That's a small I. And that small I goes on changing. Behind that small I, there is that huge I. That big I is appearing as the small I. That big I remains unaffected. How will I know this? In the state of contemplation, when I withdraw from the BMI, I come to awaken to that state. I am that pure consciousness. For that, I must be intellectually convinced. So the study of the Upanishad, etc., to give us a certain intellectual clarity and conviction. So when I sit in the seat of contemplation, there are no doubts. There are no false notions. But it is ultimately realized only in the state of contemplation. Once I realize it in that state, I abide in that state. Then when I live in the world outside, I live as the Atma. There is no question of getting affected. Now, it is not a sadhana anymore. Now it is the state of realization. So now that's what he said here, that Atma, the question which was raised, that dukkha of all the beings should make the Atma most miserable. No. Because there is no cause and effect relationship. There is only a superimposition and substratum relationship. Atma has never become this jiva. So these three are superimpositions: doership, enjoyership, and action. They are superimpositions on the Atma, like the snake is a superimposition on the rope. So as long as I identify myself as a karta, then I will face this. And that's why Karma Yoga or Sannyas both are to help me to drop this doership. In Karma Yoga, I drop it by saying, I am an instrument, Bhagwan, you are the doer, I am not the doer. So, with the help of dedication to the Lord, one drops the doership. Sannyas, one says, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. Aham naiva bhojanam, aham bhojanam naiva bhodyam na bhokta. I am not the food, I am not the eater, I am not the act of eating. Then who am I? Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. So, whether one follows that path of withdrawing and contemplating, or one follows the path of Karma Yoga, in both these, doership must go down. So there are these practical things to learn from Vedanta here, that one is I am not the Karta, so let me remain equanimous. Second, if I am not the Karta, I should live like that. That today the Karta bhav is very strong. Let me give up that Karta bhav. What will help me to dissolve that Karta bhav? Either bhakti towards Ishvara or clarity of knowledge and assertion that I am pure consciousness, I am not this body, mind, intellect. Either of these two paths I can take. Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga is together actually. And Jnana Yoga. What about Raja Yoga? Raja Yoga also will lead you to that only finally. Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. Go beyond the ego. So in my practical day-to-day life, the way I should act is how much my ego becomes smaller and lesser. At a psychological level, the roles I have to play, let me play the role. Ego has to become lesser internally. The ego pressure in me must become lesser. Otherwise, it happens exactly opposite. In the world when I am living to boost my ego. More and more people should praise me. I should have a certain achievement. I should have certain popularity, and I have created a name for myself. See, by itself having success, popularity, there is no problem. But if I feel that is what my identity is, then this is where the dukkha will come. Because now I am the karta, that is my main identity. I have forgotten who am I. If I do it just as a role and know that I am the Atma, remains unaffected, not intellectually only. How? Then that person remains unaffected. Nothing happens. No. You see, people like Vivekananda and all of them, so famous. When he rode in the world of Parliament of Religions, when he came back to India, he was given a rousing welcome. First in Sri Lanka and then in Chennai. He came in the ship from America. So Sri Lanka, in Ceylon, they received him there first. And after that, again in Chennai. Huge reception. So many hundreds and thousands of people out there. Procession and this and that. Nothing inside. No, nothing affected him at all. And 7 years when he roamed about in this country without anybody giving any kind of support, hardly some support he got. Again, internally his abidance in the Atma never was shaken. There is, at the role level, he explains many things, that what are the challenges, what should be done for the country. A lot of patriotism when we read his books and his work. You see, Gurudev also was like that. For such hard work that he did in his whole life to revive Vedanta, to empower lives of people, to bring about a renaissance in Hindu culture. So there was a award given to him, a citation from the UN, United Nations, for the contribution that he has done to humanity and culture. Gurudev could not attend that function. He had some other commitment. So he wrote to them that I am sorry, I will not be able to attend, but it can be sent to such and such place. So it was sent to us some place abroad, and from there it came to Chennai. When it came to Chennai, there were some youngsters of Chinmay Yuva Kendra who were going to meet Gurudev and come here to Mumbai. So the committee member said, you know, this is a citation from the UN. You please take this carefully and give it to Gurudev. So these youngsters took and they came. And when they came, they got down here at Dadar, then they took the taxi and arrived at the ashram, very enthusiastic to meet Gurudev. And in their energy and enthusiasm, 2 bags they forgot in the boot. And the taxi went away. Now, when they reached inside the kutia of Gurudev, suddenly they were searching, now where is that citation? Then they realized, oh God, that went away with that 2 bags. So now they are very scared. What will happen now? Such an important thing, and the committee members also trusted them and sent it here, and now they have lost it. So when they entered the kutia, their faces were all very sad, gloomy, anxious. They don't know what will happen. So Gurudev was talking to so many other people. And when they entered, then he saw. So after some time, he asked them, so you have come. How are you all doing? They are not answering. He said, what happened? So they explained that such and such citation had come from the USA and then it was given to us from Chennai to bring it to you. And we forgot 2 bags in the car, in the taxi, and it has gone with it. Everybody was stunned listening to that. They thought now they will have the firing of their life. Gurudev brushed it aside in 2 words. He said, never mind. And the next line he said was most touching. He said, do you have enough clothes? When he got the citation, there was no extreme elation in the mind. When the citation was lost, there is no dejection, disappointment. That's all. And it's not an ordinary citation. It is a citation of UN for the work that he has done throughout his life. But when the master abides in the self, these are nothing. These are small things for them. It doesn't matter also. So when we start thinking from that standpoint that I am not this jiva at all, we really become equanimous, fearless within. There is nothing that can disturb. Some of them you will see sometimes Gurudev would have got angry also on some issue. That anger will also be an issue-based anger to discipline somebody, not because that person from inside felt I am affected, I am feeling bad. Nothing like that. Like a mother does a show of anger sometimes to discipline the child. She is not really angry from inside. It is like that. So these are some of the practical implications that when we live in the world, how much our identification with this individuality has reduced and how much am I able to identify with the Lord that Bhagwan is the doer or I am the Sakshi, I am the witness of this entire process of the Jiva, Karta, Bhokta, Sukha, Dukkha, all that. I am not a party to it at all. This is a superimposition. This is not me. So now having said that, the next mantra, he goes on to explain that what is that Atma, that one who experiences this self, as we just now discussed, the one who experiences this self is always in the state of bliss. So forget Atma being affected by all types of dukkha, of all the jivas and the BMI that Atma is illumining. But one who identifies with the Atma is ever in bliss. Dukkha will never touch that person. In the Gita, it is said, Yasmin sthito na dukkhena gurunapi vichalyate. Even the greatest sorrow will not even touch this person. It will not affect that person also. Why? Because that person is no person anymore. That person has realized myself as pure consciousness. So that is verse number mantra 12. एको वशी सर्वभूतान्तरात्मा एकं रूपं बहुधा यः करोति तमात्मस्थं येनु पश्यन्ति धीराः तेषां सुखं शाश्वतं नेतरेषाम् तेषां सुखं शाश्वतम्. They experience the eternal peace, not the peace that comes and goes, not just the peace of mind. They have peace of mind, because of which they have been able to turn within and realize the peace of the self. That is called absolute peace. Sukham Shashvatam. So they will have absolute peace, Sukham Shashvatam, not others. Who are they now? Atmastham ye anupashyanti dhiraha. Those who realize themselves as the pure consciousness, such wise people. And what are the pointers of that Atma? Ekaha, it is one. Vashi, it is the controller. Sarva Bhutantaratma, it is the inner being of all the jivas. And it is that Supreme Ishvara also who makes the one appear as the many. Ekam Rupam Bahudha Yakkaroti. Like the one light passing through the prism appears as so many colors. In the same way, one light of consciousness appearing through Maya is this whole universe, so many names, forms, etc. One who realizes that I am that Atma, that person experiences absolute peace, because that's the nature of the Atma. Na itaresham, not others. So that's the literal meaning of the mantra. Now, what does the commentary say here? Sahi Parameshwaraha Sarvagataha Swatantraha Ekaha. Beautiful. That alone is the Supreme Lord. Eka also means that there is one cause, intelligent cause, the supreme cause, Sahi Parameshwaraha, who is all pervasive, Sarvagataha, Swatantra, independent, doesn't depend on anything else. Ekaha. Na tat samaha abhyadiko va anya asti. There is no one equal to or greater than this Supreme Lord. Meaning that Ishvara, Parameshwara, is the Atma here. In each heart, Sarva Bhutantaratma. So each one of us, in our essential nature, is that one Paramatma only. Like all the 1,000 reflections in a pot, all are actually one sun. Now, not knowing that, if one thinks one is a reflection, then the quality of the water and the size of the bucket, etc., will start affecting. So he says, Na tat samaha abhyadiko va anya asti. There is no one equal to, nor anyone greater than the Supreme Lord. See, these are Vedantic principles, but see how the great rishis have made it as an integral part of our sadhana through simple actions. One of the expressions of this is what? That when we do japa, we start with the Meru. Meru is the first, Meru is this bead. So this bead is called the Meru. Now this Meru is the symbol of this Paramatma. And so before we start japa, we always do this. The form may be there in front of us, then great. Many times form is not there. Then we consider this as the feet of the Lord. The Lord himself is here, and then we bow down. Then we start the japa. When we finish the japa, we come to the last bead. Now we don't cross the Meru. Why? Because nothing is greater than the Lord. So nobody can exceed. Nobody can surpass. So the mala, when we come to the last bead, we again turn and again make that last bead the first bead and again start doing the japa. This is that Vedantic principle, that nothing transcends the Supreme Lord. There is nothing equal to or greater than that Supreme Lord. Why? Because infinity is only one. And that is in my heart. So then when we do this with the eyes, when we touch, we say, I am bowing to that Lord. To realize what? When we touch the Meru to the heart, that this Paramatma is this Atma. May I realize that through this japa. From childhood, we have been doing this. But when we study Upanishad, then we understand how these great masters have embedded this highest knowledge through simple activities, which as children we may learn. As we grow up, the same thing will have a very deep significance. So there is no greater, there is nothing to transcend this Lord, that is one infinite Supreme Lord and independent, Swatantra. Everything else depends on the Lord. The Lord does not depend on anyone. Sahi Parameshwaraha Sarvagataha Swatantraha Ekaha. Na tat samaha abhyadiko va anya asti. And who is that Lord? Vashi. Sarvam hi asya jagad vashe vartate. The whole universe is under his control. Vashi means that. Vasha means to control. It's very interesting. Shiva, if you reverse, becomes Vashi. Vashi, if you reverse, becomes Shiva. Shiva is one who is the master, who is the controller of all the, who is the master of his equipment and who is the controller of all the equipments, all the jivas. Is Vashi. Vashi, sarvam hi asya jagad vashe vartate. Kutaha, how? Sarva bhutantaratma. How does the Lord control? Because he is the inner self of all the beings. So being the inner self of all the beings, all the thoughts, emotions, actions are all illumined by the Lord. One is it is illumined by the Lord. Second is the thoughts arise because of the presence of the Lord. If that Atma stops enlivening this BMI, nothing will work. So as Antaryami, the Lord knows also every thought that rises. Bhagwan may have given Purushartha to human beings. So the choice is left to us what type of thoughts we will think. But in all the other beings, there is no Purushartha Kshamata. The illumination of the Lord, it is the Lord making them act. That's why it is Krishnam Vande Jagat Guru. The Guru of the whole world is the Lord. Because who is that who is sitting inside and prompting each being to do what they are doing? How does a bird know how to build a nest? How does a honeybee make the honey comb? Proper hexagonal shape. How? Because there is an inner controller of all. How are the planets and seasons and so many things happening in this whole universe? Such a beautiful rhythm in the entire universe is because there is an inner controller of all. Sarva Bhutantaratma. Yata ekameva sat ekarasam atmanam vishuddha vijnana rupam. Yata ekameva sad ekarasam atmanam vishuddha vijnana rupam. Nama rupadi shuddha upadhi bheda vashena bahudha aneka prakaram yah karoti swatma satta matrena achintya shaktitvat. Very nice. One who is, because he is the one who is infinite, endowed with achintya shakti sampanna. Achintya Shaktitvat. Unimaginable power. Because it is infinite, one who has that unimaginable power and of the nature of pure intelligence, not some dull inert power. Of the nature of pure intelligence, because of this, the one supreme truth appears as so many names and forms in this world, identifying with the upadhis. Nama Rupadi Ashuddha Upadi Bheda Vashena Bahudha Aneka Prakaram Yah Karoti. There is one supreme appears as so many upadhis, and because it appears as so many upadhis, identifying with these upadhis, it appears as though it has become so many. This is that line of the mantra, Ekam Rupam Bahudha Yak Karoti. How it makes one appear as many? By its own inherent power, Achintya Shaktitvat. What is that Achintya Shakti? That Achintya Shakti is Maya Shakti. Yah Karoti Swatma Satta Matrena. Just by its presence, it empowers the Maya and then makes this one appear as so many, and then further gets identified with all those. So that one Supreme Paramatma is appearing as all of us, these jivas, because of his power of Maya. So what it means? As long as I feel I am the jiva, I am under the influence of Maya. So what should I do? Surrender to that Ishvara, saying, Bhagavan, it is your Maya, you please remove this Maya. In the Gita, Bhagavan says this, Daivi Hyesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya. That this Maya is my divine power. Daivi Hyesha and Gunamayi. It is constituted of three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Duratyaya is very difficult to cross. Because it's unimaginable, infinite power of the Lord. Makes the one appear as many. So now, how to get out of that? Mameva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. Those who surrender to me, they alone cross it. Meaning the jiva must surrender the jiva bhav to Ishvara, saying, I am not the jiva, I am one with you, O Lord. Please help me to realize this. Please remove this veil of Maya. So, Ekam Rupam Bahudha Yak Karoti. One who realizes that presence in oneself, Tam Atmastham Swa Sharira Hridaya Kashe, in one's own body, in the space in the heart. Now, what is the meaning of that? Buddhau Chaitanya Karena Abhivyaktim Ityeta. Abhivyaktam Ityeta. So, when we say in the body, in the space of the heart, then one should not misunderstand it to be some space inside the physical heart. If there is a space in the physical heart, that is a defect that has to be operated upon and closed. One is not talking about that. So he explains, Buddhau Chaitanya Karena. Space in the heart means illuminer in the intellect, where I feel I am, aham, 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 aham. That feeling that I exist, I am, and I am aware. That is called the presence of the Atma. So when a person withdraws from the body, mind, intellect, one is going deep within in the space of one's heart, meaning as the illuminer of conscious, as the illuminer of the buddhi. One will recognize it in one's own buddhi. Now see, there are limitations of language. When we say one will realize in the buddhi, Atma is not sitting like one small little thing inside one buddhi. Is the illuminer of all the thoughts, Like the screen illumines all the scenes. It is not somewhere inside. It is all pervasive. In the same way, that Atma is realized in our heart as the pure I. The source of this small I, if I trace, I will come to that pure I. That is called Hridaya Akasha. Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram Aham Aham iti Sakshad Atma Rupena Bhati. Ramana Maharshi said that. That in the core of my heart, Hridaya Kamala Madhye, in the lotus of my heart, Kevalam Brahma Matram. There is only one pure consciousness, which is infinite, Brahma Matram. How do I experience it? Aham Aham iti Sakshat. Every single moment I am experiencing it as I am. Nobody experiences I am not. Where is this experience of I am? In this one, Chaitanya Karena Abhivyaktam Ityeta. It is in my heart, in that Buddhi Gufa. So whether you call it heart, you call it cave of the intellect, Buddhi Gufa, it all means the same. Now how will I realize that? Hridivisha Manasa Majjata Chinvata Va. You enter into that cave of heart either through devotion or through knowledge. Pavana Chalana Rodhat, or by focusing on the breath. Any of these methods you enter, then you will realize. Meaning turn the mind within. Right now the mind is extroverted, so it may not be able to understand this or realize. But as I do sadhana, I turn the mind within. So in the time of sadhana, I am fully turned introvert. While serving in the world outside, I am selfless. With this combination, the mind is ready. Then one will realize this. Tam atmastham. Nahi sharira asya adharatvam atmanaha akashavad murtatva. Because this Atma is infinite, the body, the physical body is not the basis of it. Just like the space. The space has no boundaries. So there is no one place in which the space can be limited by. It is all pervasive, everywhere. So Shankaracharya ji is clarifying this here, that when we say it is in the buddhi, don't think inside the buddhi, inside the body, somewhere it is. It is not. Because it is extremely subtle. It is formless. It is nameless. So it is all pervasive. So, nahi sharirasya adharatvam atmanaha. So the body, so the Atma doesn't depend on the body. Body depends on the Atma. Like the objects require space. Space doesn't require objects. Space exists even without all objects. But objects cannot exist without space, because where do they exist? In space they exist. So in that same way, the body doesn't, Atma doesn't depend on the body. Body depends on the Atma. Na sharirasya adharatvam atmanaha akashavat amurtatva. Adarshastham mukham iti yadvat. Another example given is like the reflection in the mirror. So this reflection in the mirror is not dependent on the mirror. Then where is this reflection dependent on? Reflection depends on the face here. If the face is not there, there is no reflection. Mirror may be there. So who depends on whom? Adhara and Adheya relationship must be clear to us. Meaning the substratum and the superimposition. Body is the superimposition, Atma is the substratum. Today I am thinking exactly ulta. Body is the superimposition, but I am thinking body is the main thing. Atma is inside this body. No. The face has to be there for reflection to happen in the mirror. If face is not there, where reflection will be? There is no reflection. Mirror can remain as it is. Nothing will be there in that. Nobody can see anything. So in that way here, tam etam ishwaram atmanam ye nivritta bahya vrittayoho anupashyanti. Now who will see this? Those who have withdrawn from their extrovertedness. Those who have reduced their extrovertedness, they will see. They will see that the self in me is that Ishvara. What was said in the mantra in the beginning, no? Eko Vashi, Eko, that's Swatantra, Sa Parameshwara. That is the Atma of all of us. That will be realized by whom? Though it is Atma of everybody, not everybody realizes it. Because the mind is extroverted. So he says, Nivritta Bahya Vrittayaha. When one has withdrawn from external pursuits and external extrovertedness, then so in the seat of contemplation, one has withdrawn from all the things outside, one has withdrawn from the body, mind, intellect also, ego also. That person will know. Now, how to get this knowledge? So he says, Acharya, Agama, Upadesham, Anu. Because the mantra says that, no? Tam Atmastham Ye Anupashyanti. Anupashyanti means who repeatedly see and who abide in it. That is one meaning. And Anupashyanti, Anu also means afterwards. So one who has gone to the teacher, one who has studied the scripture well, this is the traditional method. That one goes to the teacher and learns. And we saw earlier also in the Kathopanishad, it was said, Ananya Prokte Gatiratra Nasti. There is no other way except listening to this knowledge from the teacher who has experienced this state. And the teacher also must teach it as the self of the student, not as something else. So, Acharya, Agama, Upadesham, Anu. Having gone to the teacher and studied the scripture, understood properly the logical sequence and various other aspects of sadhana, getting the complete picture properly, after that one will know how Sakshat Anubhavanti Dhiraha. They will experience it as their own self. That Sakshat means immediate experience. Today, whatever I know about myself is a mediate experience. It is only through the medium of body, mind, intellect I know myself. If I remove this medium, then I don't know who am I. Vedanta will tell us that our nature is that pure consciousness. If you remove the medium, you will have immediate experience. For us, the immediate experience is at the body level. From Vedanta standpoint, immediate experience is beyond body level. You remove this medium, that is immediate experience. Whereas immediate gratification means I should eat something instant, drink something quickly, enjoy something fast, immediate. That's at the BMI. But Vedanta is saying, no, no, no. Immediate means that when you remove all the medium, Sakshat, one will experience it as one's own true self. Sakshat Anubhavanti. Who? Dhiraha. These such wise people. Who are these Dhiraha? Vivekinaha. Those who are sharp in their discrimination, who have got Vairagya, who has withdrawn from the external pursuits, and who has gone to the teacher, learned the Shastra properly, that person. Tesham Parameshwara Bhutanam, they understand the Supreme Paramatma, Shashvatam as eternal, Nityam, Sukham, Atmananda Lakshanam Bhavati, as the nature of bliss. Na Itaresham, not others. Who are these others? Bahya Asakta Buddhinam. They are so extroverted, they have to eat, drink, enjoy. See, there's nothing wrong by itself in doing this, but it is the buddhi, bahya asakta buddhi, that the buddhi is saying that happiness is there only. Happiness is not there within, it is in the world outside. So very extroverted, can't sit quietly. have to walk here, go there, do this, dance there, drink something, go somewhere. Something has to happen. I can't sit quietly. These 21 days making people very restless. To stay in one place, can't go out. How strange it is, no? One meme I was reading, it was saying that human being has spent whole life to build a home, and now to stay in that home for 21 days is frustrating for that human being. That's what a tragedy that is. What I built for my comfort. No, Swami, that is for my old age. Right now, so is my time to go out and enjoy. Now they have curbed all that for our own good, na? Otherwise, we'll increase so many cases. But no, frustration galore. Why? Because the mind is extroverted. Bahya asakta buddhinam, avivekinam, who don't discriminate at all that there are two things. Atma is separate, BMI is separate. They don't know the Atma exists. They think BMI functions on its own. Avivekinam. Swatma bhutam api avidya vyavadhanat. Though they are the supreme self, because of ignorance, the obstacle of ignorance, they are not able to experience it. Not that they are not the self or the Atma is not enlivening them or it is not throbbing in their heart as aham. It is in their heart only. But it is just that they are not recognizing it as their own Atma, their own self. So they think that the BMI functions on its own and happiness is in the world outside. So just engage, that's all, nothing more to do. What more in life except eat, drink, be merry? Such people will not realize this. In the sense, till that extrovertedness is there, it will not happen. One has to reduce. Slowly turn the mind within. Learn the scripture. Go to the teacher, learn the scripture, and then sit quietly, meditate, and serve selflessly. That person is a Dhira Purusha. That person will realize. So for today, that is where we will stop. Anything anybody wants to ask, share, you are welcome.
Good morning, Swamiji. Hari Om.
Haji.
You were saying that to enter the cave of the heart, I mean, to go into the illuminer of the intellect, the three things that you said one can do. One is focusing on the breath, so to turn inward.
Yeah. One is devotion, and one is knowledge.
Selfless.
So selfless work and devotion, they come together because I cannot be selfless unless I have a devotion for any higher purpose.
Okay.
So karma yoga, bhakti yoga can become together, or one can take separately also, doesn't matter.
Right.
Selfless work, devotion, yoga is this breath control of breath observation.
Right.
And sakshi, I am a witness. That nature of the witness is Sachidananda Swarup Atma. So 4 yogas, no? Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, raja yoga. Those are the 4.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.